Okay. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Doing fine. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show. Nice to have you here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, you've got a book that we're going to be talking about. Let's see. Firework Humans. Is that the book? Interesting
That's
title.
the book.
Okay. Have you written more than one book, or is this your premiere?
This is my premiere. I've written a lot of stuff for business, just internally for our companies, but not an actual book that I put out in the world. So this is my first.
Now, why'd you decide to write a book?
Well, I'm big into education. I'm a homeschooler as well, and big into education inside of our companies, furthering their knowledge and helping them grow as human beings as well. So I started off writing this homeschooling style book based on learning styles and teaching styles and entrepreneurial instincts as I saw them. And it ended up being this massive, like 800-page book. So when I was talking with publishers, Morgan James said, this kind of book needs to be a little bit smaller. So we took out the parts that we thought would be better suited as video content and workbooks and stuff like that, and put that on my website. I filmed all of that and then put the other content in this book. And so it was just because I wanted to serve people with my knowledge.
I did see on your bio where it said Mompreneur, which I thought was cute. I knew what it meant, but I'd never seen it written out like that. So you said you homeschool. How old are your children?
18 and 11. My daughter just graduated from high school and she is going off to college this spring. Her choice. I'm always one of those moms that it's their choice based on the direction they want to go in life. But yeah, we got her from second grade all the way through, all her testing, everything like that. Although I'm not super big on testing, super brilliant child and so well-rounded. She's been to 30 countries and learned and gained knowledge all over the world. So I'm super proud of her.
That's great. So you homeschooled her from the time she was in second grade to right through
I
18?
did.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Wow.
actually, it's a interesting story because I probably never would have homeschooled. I don't want to say never, but I was thrown into it. I was pregnant with our son Jackson, and I'm high risk pregnancy. That's why they're 7 years apart. And her little private school she was going to in Texas, they called me and said, we don't have enrollment. It was that recession we all went through way back when she was about 5, 6 years old. And so they said, we can't have her, we got to find something else. And the lady that owned the school said, you should homeschool her. She's so smart. Just homeschool her and she's going to be fine. And I was freaking out because I gave birth to my son like 15 days later, had my grandma full care in my home. And it was a terrible timing. And we cried and struggled for probably our first year and a half until I really invested the time to understand different types of homeschooling, different types of teaching, understanding learning styles. And it not only helped with my relationship with her, but it helped with educating her and it helped with everybody that works inside any of our companies. So it was definitely a wonderful pivot in my life.
Is there any kind of state requirements for parents to homeschool their children? I mean, do you need a teaching certificate or do you need some kind of a license or something? I know nothing about it, so, but I'm curious.
Sure, sure. And I help a lot of families with this because it's a great question. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns is what are the requirements? What do I need to do? What are the steps? Are there rules in my state? And I always encourage everybody to look them up in your state. It's not hard to find. Every state is completely different. So like, for example, in California, you have to register as like a private school and you are registered. Yeah, you keep attendance, depending on how you do grading, you keep that as well. Um, it's very easy. It just requires a little effort. And then there are some states that don't require anything. So being in Texas, there wasn't any of that. There was none of that that was required at the time that we were there to homeschool. So it's very different, but it's also about accountability. You want to be accountable for yourself and your child. And the beauty of homeschooling is that you get to create this path of education that is suited best towards them. We've always practiced project-based, interest-based learning. So my kids have always everything in their education is based on what they're currently interested in, and retention and comprehension is so much higher when it's focused on that area that they really are curious about at the moment. Curiosity, it sparks amazing things in everybody, and when you're curious about something and you really want to understand something, you're going to retain that information because it's something you're interested in, and then you want to share it with everybody. So that's always sort of been our path.
Oh, absolutely. So you're free to set the curriculum. I mean, you can teach them basically whatever you want. There's no guidelines from the state that says you got to do math, you have to do science, you have to do, no?
It depends on which path of homeschooling and which state you're in. A lot of states don't govern that. I mean, I know people who practice unschooling, which is basically, living in their environment, learning from nature, learning from life skills in everyday life. Some people practice more of a traditional and buy a curriculum, or they homeschool, but they're actually doing online schooling at home, which follows a very similar path to what you would get in public or private school if you attended. For me, it's always been important to make sure that the math and science and all of that is there. Reading, I think everything stems from reading. So it really is about what you want for your child, but also in the understanding that they have to grow up and they have to be functioning adults eventually. So you, in my mind, my personal beliefs, you can't educate and not include something like math or spelling and vocabulary, reading, all those kind of things that to me are vital tools for when you become an adult. So it's hard to speak on it directly because I know families that have explored every option from Sudbury to Waldorf to unschooling to deschooling to, there's a lot around deschooling, kids that have gone to public or private education, and then the parents want to correct all the hidden curriculum that they were taught and correct the mindset around education and about being, a healthy and accountable adult. And so it really depends on the family. I know a lot of families that it's religious based. I think homeschooling for a long time was considered just families that pulled kids out for religious reasons and took an alternate path of education. And I know maybe 10% of the people I know that homeschool are doing it on a religious basis. So it's a really big topic. It's a long topic, and I know we have a short amount of time, so I try to get as much in that as I could.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to go off on that tangent. I was just curious about it.
That's okay.
And I think there's a lot of people out there that would be interested in hearing something about that. So, okay. So let's pivot over to your book. Your book is called Firework Humans, and how much of this is the subtitle? What's the subtitle?
The 9 Entrepreneurial Instincts. So the book is, I would say, about 70% around that. And then I do touch on learning styles and teaching styles and mindset, growth mindset versus fixed mindset, about different paths in which kids grow up in and how that alters and changes things for them as well. So there's quite a bit in this book. I tend to be lengthy in my words, and so I had to really cut it back. I tried to get as much as I could. I'm one of those people that want to give you all the information and make sure you have it and have full comprehension. So cutting it down was quite challenging for me, but it's all about recognizing sparks inside of the people around you, your spouse, your children, your parents, your employees, whoever it might be, seeing these different instincts and helping them grow them and recognizing all the little things inside of them where they do thrive, and then maybe areas where they don't, helping correct that if they're looking to grow in that area.
Who did you write the book for? Who's the target audience?
Well, originally it was more about education. So education, I do get a lot of fellow business owners, CEOs, that once they find out that I also am big in education, they tend to pick my brain about understanding that and understanding the relationships I also have with my employees. and how I got to that place. And so it started out as more for education for families, but then it sort of morphed. I realized that there were a lot of entrepreneurs who also wanted to help educate their family and grow as a family, and also their employees. And so it kind of grew. And then once I talked with Morgan James, they said, I think you don't understand how big of an audience that this targets, and this could help. So then it became this business book. And I just I didn't really ever consider it. It was just everything was living in my head, and I would have so many conversations, and I'd get on different podcasts for business, um, or get on something for education. And it became really helpful to have it written down and to have a tool to give people.
Do you use this book in your companies?
I do. I do. I mean, if you were to read this book, then you'd have a really good grasp on the way my mind works, and how I direct conversations, and how I lead, and how I try to help people inside and outside of my company. So absolutely.
So you could almost use it as like an employee handbook of some kind.
You could. And a lot of my education friends, they have taken it into their schools and into their districts, and given it to teachers, and used as different ways to inspire and grow the kids that they work with. So it's really cool. It's like super groovy the way it's been used in different platforms.
We've got about 2 minutes, and I just wanted to touch on, I see all kinds of things on here. Brandlync and Drivonic and Epek. So these are all, what do they do? What do all these companies do?
So my husband and I have a portfolio of companies that we own. Brandlync is mine solely. It's a full service digital marketing company. We also do traditional as well, creative and all of that. Drivonic is deals in automotive, works with not only OEMs, but large ad groups like myself and Chumney, and just big ones out there, and sort of the back end fulfillment for programs and products and data. Epek, there's several Epek companies. We have software development. We have Epek is quite a beast. We have car dealerships that we use them as labs for all of the automotive stuff we're developing. We have some real estate holding. Goodness, I mean, there's a lot to what we do, and they're all sort of synergistic in nature. Like we have an email platform company because we needed a way to know that when we were emailing our customers on behalf, or our clients' customers, that it was real. I'm sure you're aware of all the bot traffic and everything that's out there. So it's served us well. And we are a family of intentional congruence. We practice that in our lives. So if a company or a situation or even employees aren't serving us and isn't working to make all of it cohesive, then we shed what doesn't serve us. And so everything that we currently have, it all sort of helps each other out and works together.
Well, Jessica, we've got to wind this up. We are just out of time like that. Thank you so much for coming on this show. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure. The most simplest one for me is just going to be jessicamead.com, and you can find links to all of my businesses and my book and anything else there if you want to reach out to me. So yeah, jessicamead.com.
Okay. How long has the book been out?
Let's see, a year and maybe 2 months now.
Okay. And it's doing well?
It's doing fantastic, yes.
Oh, great. I'm glad to hear it. Well, thank you for coming on this show. It was nice meeting you, nice talking to you, and best of luck. Sounds like you got a lot on your plate.
Yes, thank you. I've got a lot on my plate, and it's been a busy start of the year. So, always moving.
All right. Well, take care. Best of luck.
Thank you.